Hi folks, I'm making this video with the purpose of informing you about subatomic particles, or at least these three atomic particles, and how they're put together in the structure of an atom. So for starters, these three types of particles we talked a little bit during the semester about. We have protons, electrons, and neutrons. We haven't talked about neutrons a lot, and there's a reason. Protons and electrons, these are particles that exhibit this property that they repel and attract one another in various combinations. Right? So one way we try to describe that phenomenon is in terms of electric fields. So we say, okay, protons are particles that create an electric field around them, and that electric field would point basically outward away from the proton. And then electrons are particles that also create an electric field because they're charged, and they create an electric field that is towards the electron. And then neutrons are particles that are considered electrically neutral. They don't interact through what we call the Coulomb force with these other two particles. And that's why we haven't been talking about them very much. So electric fields don't act on neutrons, and nor do magnetic fields. Right? Electric and magnetic fields act on these particles. Now, these particles the proton has a charge, a numerical charge of positive 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. The charge on the electron is normally written as negative 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. The minus sign doesn't really have any meaning other than the fact that the electron force, whether you're talking about a magnetic force or an electric force, is always in the opposite direction of the proton. So that's the only meaning of that charge. There's really nothing fundamentally different about the electron charge other than the force directions. And then neutrons are electrically neutral, so we say they have a charge of 0. Now sometimes, in the language of chemistry, people like to simplify this. And this charge, positive 1.6 times 10 to the minus 19 coulombs, we would sometimes call that just a charge of plus 1. And this charge is sometimes referred to as minus 1 and so forth. So the masses of those particles also important. So a proton, I wrote it over there, has a mass of 1.67 times 10 to the minus 27. An electron has a mass of 9.11 times 10 to the minus 31st. And you'll notice that the neutron has basically the same mass as the proton. I say basically, to 3 digits here, they're the same. If you go a couple more, there's a slight difference. But for all practical purposes, they have the same mass. So these three subatomic particles here, these are the building blocks of atoms. And I'm going to discuss atomic structure here in my next video. So.